All right, ELA 1, this is book 23 of the Odyssey. For some reason, the PDF, the computer wasn't working. The link to our book wasn't working, so as always, I've got the PDF version there for you. It is book 23, although for some reason the title didn't make it there, but it is nonetheless book 23. So he has just defeated the suitors. Great-hearted Odysseus, home at last, was being bathed now by Eurynome, and rubbed with golden oil, and clothed again in a fresh tunic and a cloak. Athena lent him beauty, head to foot. She made him taller and massive, too, with crisping hair, and curls like petals of wild hyacinth, but all red golden. Think of a gold infused on silver by a craftsman, whose fine art Hephaestus taught him, or Athena, one whose work would move to delight just so. She lavished beauty over Odysseus's head and shoulders. He sat then in the same chair by the pillar, facing his silent wife, and said, "Strange woman, the immortals of Olympus made you harder than any. Who else in the world would keep aloof as you do from her husband if he returns to her from years of trouble, cast on his own land in the 20th year? Nurse, make up a bed for me to sleep on. Her heart is iron in her breast." Penelope spoke to Odysseus now. She said, "Strange man, if man you are, this is no pride on my part, nor scorn for you, not even wonder. Merely, I know so well how he appeared boarding the ship of Troy. But all the same, make up his bed for him, Euryclea." That's the nurse. "Place it outside the bedchamber my lord built with his own hand. Pile the big bed with fleeces, rugs, and sheets, and purest linen." So one, you never know if it's a god in disguise, so she's not sure if it's some sort of trick. She also knows that this person looks exactly like Odysseus did. Now, Penelope doesn't know Athena has made him look this way, but it's as though he never left, right? It's as though he looks the exact same he did 20 years ago. So how was this person not aged, right? She's wise to be cautious. So she said, "I'm just being cautious. Nurse, Euryclea, go ahead and pull the bed out of the room and put it in the hall and make it up for this man." Now this is an example, a model of Penelope being cunning, showing her metis, and we will see why. She's cautious, so she's kind of testing him. With this, she tried him to the breaking point, and he turned on her in a flash, raging. "Woman, by heaven, you stung me now. Who dared to move my bed? No builder had the skill for that, unless a god came down to turn the trick. No mortal in his best days could budge it with a crowbar. There is our pact and pledge, our secret sign built into that bed, my handiwork and no one else's." So here's the deal. An old trunk of olive grew like a pillar on the building plot. So before they built the house, there was this old olive tree. And I laid out the bedroom round that tree, lined up the stone walls, built the walls and roof, gave it a doorway and smooth-fitting doors. Then I lopped off the silvery leaves and branches, hewed, that shaped the stump for the roots up into the bedpost, drilled it, let it serve as model for the rest. I planed them all, inlaid with all silver, gold, and ivory, and stretched a bed between, a pliant web of oxhide thongs dyed crimson. This is our sign. So essentially, when he built the house, there was a tree that grew there, and instead of uproot the tree, he just cut it down to be one of the bedposts. So literally, the bed was grown into the ground. I mean, there's no way you could move the bed unless you, moved the whole tree, roots and all. So he says, there's our sign. Obviously, no one could move the bed, and obviously Penelope knows this, and only knows that it would be just Odysseus and no one else that would know this secret. "There is our sign. I know no more. Could someone else's hand have sawn that trunk and dragged the frame away? Their secret." As she heard it told, her knees grew tremulous and weak. Her heart failed her. With eyes brimming tears, she ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck, and kissed him, murmuring, "Do not rage at me, Odysseus. No one ever matched your caution. Think what difficulty the gods gave. They denied us life together in our prime and flowing years, kept us from crossing into age together. Forgive me, don't be angry. I could not welcome you with love on sight. I armed myself long ago against the frauds of men, impostors who might come, and all those many whose underhanded ways bring evil on, Helen of Argos, daughter of Zeus and Leda. It's Helen who launched the 1,000 ships. Would she have joined the stranger laid with him if she had known her destiny, known that the Achaeans in arms would bring her back to her own country? Surely a goddess moved her to adultery, her blood unchilled by war and evil coming, the years, the desolation, ours too. But here and now, what sign could be so clear as this our own bed? No other man has ever laid eyes on it, only my slave Actorius, that my father sent me as a gift. She kept our door. You make my heart stiff, now that I am yours. You make my stiff heart know that I am yours. Now from his breast into his eyes the ache of longing mounted, and he wept at last, his dear wife, clear and faithful in his arms longed for, as the sun-warmed earth is longed for by a swimmer, spent in rough water where his ship went down under Poseidon's blows, gale winds and tons of sea. Few men can keep alive through a big surf. To crawl clotted with brine of kindly beaches. Enjoy knowing the abyss behind. And so she too rejoiced, her gaze upon her husband, her white arms round him pressed as though forever. Odysseus and Penelope tell each other about all that has happened to them while Odysseus was away. Then Odysseus visits with his father Laertes to give him the good news of a safe return. Meanwhile, the townspeople, angry about the death of the young suitors, gather to fight Odysseus, but in the end, Athena steps in and makes peace among them. So that is the last book in our book. As it said, it does go on. I'll kind of summarize here. So we know the resurrection. He battles with the suitors. Also, after he battles the suitors, we see the test of Penelope and the bed. And finally, then, we've got the return. Now, Odysseus defeats the suitors, restoring balance to his kingdom of Ithaca. Now, the book doesn't tell us, but after he's killed these 100 suitors, right? Well, these 100 suitors have parents and families. So he goes out into his home, and there's like this revolt that's happening, right? Odysseus comes back and kills the best of our next generation. So all the old men and all the families take arms against him, and there's going to be this just massacre. Well, that's when Athena comes down and says there's been enough blood spilt. She turns to the families and says, your sons dishonored the king. And turns to Odysseus, you need to come now and rule the people that remain. These guys did no harm. So Athena gives them a sign. They all come together. And Odysseus plants, again, in some versions, it's an oar. Other times it's a plank from his broken ship. Sometimes it's a wooden staff, or some stories refer to the branch. So as Poseidon almost drowns him, he clings to this branch, this piece of plank from the wood. He plants it, and it eventually grows into a tree that officially is the sign that, this is Odysseus's land forever. And with Athena's aid, all is renewed and all is well. And we have come to the end of the Odyssey.